Hey guys. Okay, so in last week's video, I shared with you that I'm currently deep, or at least it feels like deep into a major renovation project, and that process has taught me so much stuff that has already benefited me, not only in terms of my business, but more importantly, how I operate as a town planner. And I wanted to share with you guys the biggest lesson that I've learned so far in this whole process, which was, as I mentioned last week, that you need to be flexible, and that you need to be flexible for 3 key reasons. Now, in last week's video, we covered off reason number 1. So if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it because it sets the scene for what we're going to talk about today and what we're going to talk about next week. But this week, I obviously want to cover off reason number 2. Now, the second reason that you need to be flexible in this whole process, and I am focused more here on renovations, in particular Queenslander renovations, is that you do not know what you are going to uncover. So you need to understand when it comes to these houses, yes, they are somewhat cookie cutter. I like to joke they've been ordered out of IKEA catalogues. That's questionable, but generally speaking, they basically follow a very set plan. That said, they have all been built by humans. They have not been built by robotics or like robots or any of that sort of stuff. So you are going to get slight variations on site when things go to sort of come together, let's just say. Also, you need to understand that each house is kind of weathered in a different way. It's been exposed to different elements in terms of sun, wind, rain, termites, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, each house, even if it had been built exactly the same at the start, is going to age differently, let's just say. I was like, how am I going to word this? Age differently. Let's go with that. So I had a great example of this with my own renovation project. Now, the house we have, it originally had some beautiful, no, it wasn't yet beautiful, it was fugly cladding on the outside. It was that plastic cladding. Now, when I looked at this, I was like, this could go one of 2 ways, and odds are it's going to go in the not so good way. So basically, when we pull it off, we could find that the boards, the best case scenario, the boards are in beautiful, pristine condition. The previous owners, they just didn't like timber. They just wanted to cover it over before it showed that wear and tear factor, right? Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. More realistically, what was going to happen is we pulled them off and we were going to find that the boards underneath were just absolutely deteriorated, like they were an absolute mess, and that the previous owners had chosen to cover it over because it was cheaper or more cost effective to cover over rather than to actually go to the effort of stripping the lead-based paint off, sanding it back, repainting, all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I went into this process going, look, that is a unknown variable for me. In an ideal world, I would know what's underneath there, and therefore I could factor it in terms of pricing and all of that sort of stuff. Now, I did, for a split second, consider the idea of starting to pull the cladding off so that I could look at it in more detail. We ended up doing a little patch sort of test, but it was acknowledged from the start that patch could be an anomaly, let's just say. And especially when you got around to the western side or the sides that were more affected by wind and rain, all of that sort of stuff, it could be a totally different story. So yeah, I did for a split second consider ripping it all off so I could see what I was dealing with from the start and therefore factor it into all the pricing and all of that sort of stuff. But then I was like, well, if the project doesn't go ahead, I'm left with this ugly exposed cladding. I'd much rather resell the property with this I was about to say pretty cladding. It was never pretty, but prettier cladding on the outside that was kind of hiding what was potentially underneath. So yeah, I was walking that line of going, okay, do we start to uncover things so I can deal with the knowns here, or do I dive into this process knowing that it probably won't go to plan? I may end up facing the situation where we have to, it would have been terrible if this had happened, rip off all the cladding and replace it and all of that sort of stuff. I had many conversations with my builder early on just going, look, I know at some point practical reality has to take over, and I know at some point you're going to have to put your foot down and say to me, Peter, we can't have it all. You're going to have to compromise here, but I really hope that we can keep those original boards underneath because I really like the original timber. Do not like modern timber when it comes to old houses and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, point I'm trying to get across in this video is when it comes to these old houses, lots of stuff gets covered over and you don't know when you start uncovering it what's going to be hiding behind it. Was it built in the way you intended or you expected back then, or did they kind of deviate from the plans a little bit? Are the posts not going to be in the locations you expect them to be? Or have they experienced more wear and tear than you're expecting if termites got in? Or like I suggested with the cladding on the outside for me, was it that worn down and destroyed that they just hit over it or covered over it type thing? So yeah, you need to be flexible for that reason. Okay, I think that covers off everything I want to talk about today. As I always like to say, until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got 3. Number 1, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site specific. this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number 2, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number 3, what was my number 3? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.